Okay, so we're slowly redirecting to the Facebook Live. You know how this guy works. And I think we're probably good. There we go. We're here. Fabulous. So hello, everyone. My name is Demelza Fox from the Morgan le Fay Mystery School. And here with me today, let's stop the double feedback of the sounds. Hooray! Okay. Perfect. So with me today is the wonderful Suzanne O'Gara, who is our potions mistress and herbalist extraordinaire at the Morgan le Fay Mystery School. And today we're going to talk all about the herbs of Avalon, aren't we, Suzanne?
We are. Yes. So excited.
It's our favorite topic. So Suzanne, could you share with us why? So a big part of our mystery school is you do the priestess work, you do the deep dive soul searching work, but you also study the art and craft of herbalism at the same time. Why is that so important for us as Avalon people, Suzanne?
Yes. So I have two main reasons for that. And the first one is pretty simple. So it's that we have, the initial writings of Morgan le Fay and the Nine Sisters and the writings about the priestesses of Avalon in general stated that the priestesses of lore were said to have been trained in herbcraft, as well as like midwifery and wound healing and all of the sort of adjacent practices to herbcraft. So if we want to emulate that, then we need to learn the herbcraft. Very simple. And Morgan le Fay was, said to have been the most talented at healing with herbs among her nine sisters. So that's first and foremost. But also, I think that, and this is really important, it's important for anyone on an Avalonian path, but especially if you don't live in the UK, or even just don't live in Glastonbury or near there, is that the herbs and connecting with the plants and really studying the plants of Avalon and learning the practice of working with them, it connects you to the land itself. And it's going to help you attune to the unique cycles of Avalon. So that can be really, really important and really helpful if you're, a lot of us are in America and it's not so easy to get there. So, there are going to be times when you're just like yearning for the Holy Isle. And that is one way that you can kind of get a little closer. So.
Beautiful. Lovely. I love it. And also one thing I have found, since this is going to be our 6th year of mystery school, I think. And in the first year, Suzanne was teaching me all the herb stuff. And the magic about working with herbs is that we're on a nature-based pathway, and working with herbs really deepens your connection, not just with the earth and helping you understand how humans and the world around us have had this reciprocal relationship for thousands of years, but it also gets you in another layer of connection with your landscape where you are. So you can go around and go, I know what that plant does. I know what that plant does too. And there's just this bigger sense of connection with your landscape, which has been the biggest thing for me doing herb stuff. And in mystery school, we train you in different herb things, and some people learn the herb stuff and they love it and they go on to study more, and some people like me learn the herb stuff and love it and get around to it once in a blue moon when we remember it. So that's how we work that. Can you tell me about your journey? Because you are fabulous. Suzanne runs the Alchemy of Avalon tea shop and online shop. She is a tea witch and she is a tea witch and a blender of teas, professional herbalist. How did you get to this path? Could it have had something to do with Morgan le Fay?
Absolutely, 100%. And so, okay, so in 2002, I read Mists of Avalon for the first time, and that is what got me on this spiritual path. So changed my life like it did for so many others. And at that point, I started, I considered my personal practice to be strongly influenced by Avalon, and I knew right away that Morgan le Fay was my patron deity. So I didn't just see her as this literary character, or that's so cool, she's from Arthurian legend and now we have this, version of it. But I felt it was more than that. I felt that she was coming through as the goddess for me and as the divine feminine. And I just kind of, went from there. And at that time in my life, I was pursuing a career as a professional classical singer. So I was performing in, teaching, and auditioning for operas and musicals. And, I had some things going on in terms of work as a singer, but I needed to supplement my income, especially in New York City, so I had to get other jobs. And eventually I ended up, like, my little side waitress job was for Alice's Teacup, and they're still there in New York. So and that's where I actually earned the nickname the Tea Witch, because I just started, like, I would recommend teas to customers based on intuition and based on, like, I would start learning about the herbs. And up until that point I had heard of a few herbal remedies that I could drink to help my voice and stuff like that, but then I really started getting into it. And then after that I worked at another tea house in New York. And then it was at that second tea house, which was on St. Mark's Place, that I, like, had this huge realization that, like, oh shit, this is what I want to be doing. Like, I actually have no desire to audition for such and such opera. I really actually wish I was back at the tea shop making something to help somebody. And that was when it blew my mind that I was like, wait, this is what, like, a modern day priestess of Avalon, that's what their life would look like. Because you would probably be doing, like, sacred music and dance. I was belly dancing also at that time. Like, you would have all of those arts, but there was that missing piece. And then I realized that that's why I was so drawn to, like, creating remedies and understanding the medicinal as well as the intuitive component of it. So that was when I decided to study herbalism, with the purpose of eventually opening up a place where I could, create that space as a priestess. So
Beautiful. And you came in to teach our first year of mystery school as our herb teacher. And then over the last few years, your dreams came true and you're now in your beautiful shop in Massachusetts.
yes, yeah. I had studied herbalism out in Arizona, but made my way back to the East Coast. So yeah.
So deepening in with the herbs of Avalon, can you tell us a little bit about how we work with herbs in Sisterhood of Avalon? Because Suzanne here, she's our resident super witch. She is as witchy as they come. She's like 4 times as witchy as I am. And she brings this amazing blend of herbalism and having this very solid background as a professional, very sensible herbalist. And anywhere she can bring in magic and ritual, she'll bring it in. So can you tell us a little bit about how the herb curriculum goes down in Morgan le Fay Mystery School Town?
Absolutely. That's very sweet. Thank you, by the way. In Morgan le Fay Mystery School, oh my God, I love it, because what we do is we hone in on one plant, one herb that aligns with each face of Morgan le Fay that we study. And I still remember when you and I were creating that, like, that wheel, when you had your wheel and we were like, which herb for which face, and it was so cool. And so, anyone who I think even has just put their toes in the water of learning about Morgana knows that she is shifty, and she is not like, here's her, she's a love goddess or she's a war goddess. Like, she is so many things, and she will come to you in whatever way makes the most sense for you. But so out of the different, we have the high priestess, the healer, the enchantress, all of those different faces. We have medicinal and magical herbs. So it's the same plant, but we learn the medicinal and the magical component of that one plant. And we really, really deepen our relationship into that plant in order to also deepen our relationship with that aspect of Morgan le Fay. So it's a really different way of doing things, because it really ties in all of the like what you would learn in a formal herbalism class, but also with like a devotional practice. And there's also magic. So yeah, for those who, you know, embrace the witch archetype and want to do spellcraft, they have that option. And so you don't miss out on a thing. It's great.
It's fabulous. So we have, of course, the many different aspects of Morgan le Fay. And as we go through the year learning about these different aspects, we do different herbcraft projects. So you learn and are supported through pretty much all the basic herbalists need to know how to make stuff, plus some added super witchy projects on the edge, because it's Morgan le Fay. She's gonna do sorcery. That's how it works.
Right, exactly. Yeah, when you are part of Morgan le Fay Mystery School and you're studying, the herb craft program absolutely covers so much more than you know, tea, for example. I think that's usually what most people, you know, start off with, but you know, we do salves and we do tinctures and we do like beauty products, and we work with essential oils as well, which is kind of a separate modality, but we do, you know, hone in on the basics of that as well. So, and that's important. So we talk about safety there. What else? We talk about foraging. That's a huge aspect of learning herbcraft, is, you know, identifying and ethical foraging and all of that. So yeah, it covers a lot of bases that way. Yeah.
And the thing I love is it gives you a physical way. One of the things I am obsessed with is connecting ourselves with our ancestors and remembering a lot of the forgotten wisdom that we just don't have nowadays, because life's so easy. We got washing machines and computers and little pills from hospital and everything. And I find that connecting with these ancestral practices all over the world, people would have been using herbs and still do for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. It's been the thing that has happened. And when we connect back in with these deep practices that our ancestors, no matter where we're from, if we're from Nigeria, or if we're from Poland, or if we're from ancestrally from Philippines or from California, our ancestors would have been foraging for herbs, preparing them, using them to heal their friends and family and communities and loved ones, because that's what they had. And I feel like connecting with these, I mean, doing herbcraft is just hella witchy and hella cool. And it's just so amazing to find that there is a practical application for this Avalonian work, that Avalon isn't just something that we can fantasize about in our brain. It's something that has skills and a lineage that we can bring back. And the magic of Avalon is, I feel, this is my interpretation of Avalon, and of course there are many others, that it's not a super fancy ceremonial, there's a super high priestess and everyone else is just her bitches. It's a very down to earth, practical path for me. That's how I feel. And using these ancient knowledges of the people who have gone before us is such a tie in to our deep past, when we did honor the land, especially in cultures like yours in America and mine in England, when we are so disconnected from the original spiritual practice that grew out of our landscape. We adopted one from the deserts and from the Middle East, and we don't have that relationship with our earth here. I find that such a powerful part of learning herbs, and why as soon as I knew I was going to run mystery school, I knew I needed Suzanne to teach herb stuff. Had to happen, babe. Had to happen. So we know why herbs and studying herbs is a very important part of Avalon. And even if you don't want to take mystery school, 10 out of 10. Oh, give me a sec. I'm incredibly popular. Even though I lost my train of thought. I just got too popular for my own good. So we know why learning herbs is important as a priestess of Avalon. Even if you take mystery school or not, we suggest if you want to go deeper into your Celtic spirituality, go study plants. It's great. Just go do it. And we have learned about how we work with this in the Morgan le Fay Mystery School. But now I'd love to share about what are some of the herbs that we work with and that are specifically connected with Avalon. Because there are herbs and plants from all over the world, and it's different depending on which book you use and where the person is from. And there is a specific subset of herbs that are indigenous to the UK or would have been available in the UK easily back in Morgan le Fay Avalon times, which I think is anywhere between about 500 AD all the way back to maybe 500, 1000 BC. I think that's the range we're working on. So lay some herbs down on us, Suzanne.
Yeah, I agree with that. I wanted to mention that I work off of a premise, I guess you could say, that we're talking about the early ADs when the Romans had already shown up and done their thing. But you know, of all the terrible things that were done, there was also a lot of plant wisdom brought in and a lot of organization and writing done by some of those Romans. So we work off of the materia medica that is not exclusively native to the UK, but things that were naturalized, you know, 2000 years ago that those priestesses then would have had access to. Absolutely. So to that point, the first plant that I put on this list, and you should know that I agonized about this list, but
That you did.
we knew that already. But rose, I mean, it's, you know, it's so ubiquitous that we sometimes forget how deeply entrenched in magic and symbolism, and yes, also medicine, the rose is. And yes, a lot of that medicine is more energetic and emotional, but that's not to be discounted by any means. And yes, of course, we have the hips, the rose hips, the fruit of the rose are super rich in vitamin C. So they maybe have a little bit more of a traditionally medicinal component to them. But in mystery school, we work with, you know, the rose petals as well as the rose essential oil. And I'm sure you could also speak to the important priestess path and magic of anointing and working with sacred oils, which probably is a whole other chat. But yeah, so I have rose as my #1 herb of Avalon because of its strong innate connection with the divine feminine. And furthermore, if you accept Glastonbury as the location of Avalon, or at least one location to Avalon or a portal to Avalon, we refer to Glastonbury as the heart chakra of the world. And I can't disagree with that. I mean, I haven't been all over the world, but I mean, it's got something going on there. So I mean, rose, of course, would be our heart chakra plant. And plants in the rose family in general are so tied to Avalon. The apple would be probably the most obvious plant of Avalon, but not an herb, so it's not on this list. But you know, the apple is in the rose family. And so for that reason, for the second one on my list, I have hawthorn, even though that's not in our materia medica officially in Morgan le Fay Mystery School. You know, we talk about it a lot. It's so strongly associated with the fairies, with the fairy realm, with Beltane, but also at the same time with protection and with boundaries and liminality, liminal space. And I find it to be very connected with Morgan le Fay. And with hawthorn, you also get that, you know, we have almost all parts of that are used medicinally. So we have our blossoms in around Beltane, and we have the leaves, but then we get the berries later on in the fall. And so that is very, and of course, hawthorn, for those that know, medicinally is used as a heart tonic. So again, we have that heart connection. So,
Hawthorn, great
yeah.
choice.
Yeah, couldn't leave her off. The third plant that I have here is rosemary. And that's another one that, like, it's kind of easy to discount rosemary because we put it in our food, right? Or we use the rosemary oil for our hair sometimes or whatever. But rosemary is another plant that, is so, before it was associated with Mother Mary or the Virgin Mary, before that, it was strongly associated with Aphrodite. And I would imagine probably further back in that rose line, if you will, before ancient Greece, when we get back to Astarte and Ishtar. But rosemary is another one that is a Mediterranean plant. So that would have been naturalized, brought in by the Romans. But it's super important. It's highly aromatic. Rosemary is the plant in mystery school that we associate with the high priestess archetype, or the high priestess aspect of Morgan le Fay. And rosemary is, it's a wonderful alternative to white sage that we, especially in America, we're so all about the over-harvested, overproduced, white sage everywhere. And that's a whole other thing. But you can use rosemary. You can burn it, you can dry it and burn it. It will purify your space. It will bring protection. Rosemary is the herb of remembrance. And so if we are on a subconscious and conscious level working with remembering our ancestral priestesses, remembering our own, sovereignty, remembering our own worth as priestesses and our own path, and then reclaiming that is, rosemary is your number one plant ally for that. So yes. She's amazing. The fourth plant I have is mugwort, which is the plant that we kick off with at Samhain time. Mugwort is probably the number one herb that is has like the strongest lunar associations with the lunar cycle. Lemon balm is probably a close second to that. So I didn't put that on my list, but lemon balm, honorable mention. But I should have probably I'll get there in a minute. But mugwort,
five.
Impossible. But yeah, so mugwort, of course, her Latin name is Artemisia vulgaris, and mugwort was already native. So that, that was native to the UK, that was native to, the Romans, to America. It's all over the place. It's a weed, but it is Artemisia vulgaris. So it was named after Artemis, the moon goddess. And she does act as an emmenagogue, meaning that it can help bring on the menstrual cycle. So it has, again, that lunar connection, and many other medicinal properties as well. But most people know mugwort because they associate it with, they use it to increase dream activity, or to encourage lucid dreaming, and also for psychic work and third eye opening. So, which is, of course, an important component of a priestess path. So yeah, so mugwort. So, and then I cheated on the next to number 5. It says toss up between elder, vervain, lemon balm, or lavender. And I know we don't have time to talk about all of those, but we basically talk about all of those plants in mystery school. Of course, we study all of those, but elder is another one with very strong associations with the Fae and with liminal space, and can be considered a portal, similarly to hawthorn. And that's another one where we use the blossoms in the spring and the berries in the fall. So you get that light and dark duality.
Very Morgan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, she's, the fairy or the shadow shadow goddess. Vervain we have, that's another native plant to the UK. Vervain is one, and this is Verbena officinalis. There are other species, but we have documented records of that being used by the Druids. And that also increases psychic awareness, said to open the third eye. Don't drink it as a tea, it can make you sick. Lavender, of course, again, that's another one that's like sometimes overlooked because it's so ubiquitous, but that was brought in by the Romans, but super important. And I think also the color of it, can kind of sort of be tied to like the third eye or the crown chakra. It's highly aromatic, calming. And then of course, lemon balm, in a nutshell, she is associated with priestessing and lunar cycles as well. Her name, Melissa officinalis, means honeybee, and the Melissae were the temple priestesses of Diana, although we also have records of the priestesses of Aphrodite being referred to as the Melissae as well. And we know that our modern day temple tenders at the Glastonbury Goddess Temple refer to themselves as the Melissas. So, yes.
So many plants, such a short time. Well, I hope you all have had a delicious taste of why herbs are such an important part of your Avalon Priestess journey. And now you have some little anchors and little of different plants you can go and look for and be like, hey, Suzanne said that's an Avalon plant. Hey, Suzanne said that's an Avalon plant. And if you have any questions about the herb stuff that happens in Morgan le Fay Mystery School or anything to do with Morgan le Fay Mystery School, just reach out. We're around. We love to talk about this stuff all day long. So we would love to hear from you. Is there anything you'd like to say in closing, my lovely?
That also, even if the medicinal part of herbcraft turns out not to be someone's thing, that I think it's also an important part of devotional practice. So that's one thing that we talk about also is you can find the plants and connect with your patron deity, in our case, Morgan le Fay, and work with that plant spirit to attune more and align more with your patron deity. So yeah, I think that's something that people forget too, is you can use it, work with it for offerings and to kind of increase that relationship. So yeah,
it's great. So thank you so much for joining me, Suzanne. Thank you so much for joining me, everybody, and happy autumn equinox. Go look for some elderberries, friends. Have a great time.
Thank you.